This is a view of 66 Spears Road from the top. We're looking at a standard barn found on a typical small southern Ontario farm. Concrete blocks with heavy timber supports and a metal roof.
Ready, guys?
The fire was set in a stall located midway down the southwest wall of the barn. 4 waterproof night vision cameras were positioned within the barn to capture the growth and spread of the fire from a variety of angles. Camera 1 was aimed down the length of the barn to watch the evolution and progress of the hot smoke layer within the barn. Camera 2 was focused on the back wall of the barn and captured unique observations of radiation from the fire across the barn, ending by capturing the flames as they extended across the ceiling to the far side of the barn. Cameras 3 and 4 were aimed to capture the overall development of the fire from opposite corners of the barn. Thermocouple probes were positioned on 4 vertical posts in the barn, with one near the stall in which the fire was started. Thermocouples are devices that measure gas temperatures, so these were used to track how the hot smoky layer formed, collected, and traveled throughout the barn during the test. 3 thermocouples were placed on each post, one about 7 inches below the ceiling, one midway down, about 5 feet above the floor, and the last about a foot above the floor. These are shown as high, medium, and low thermocouples here. Thermocouple posts A and D were near the corners of the barn, close to cameras 3 and 4. Post B is closest to the stall of fire origin. Post C is directly across the barn from the stall where the fire was ignited. A bale of hay was spread in the stall and a top layer loosened to aid ignition. The fire was then ignited using a magnesium flare. This was inserted into loose hay and the wooden pallet in the back corner of the stall against the wall until a fire became well established in the fuel. After ignition, hot smoke can immediately be seen curling up along the wall and to the roof of the barn in the bottom right frame of camera 4. Temperatures of high thermocouples begin to climb as the hot gases rise and spread along the ceiling. Within 10 seconds, visible flame can be seen in the stall where the fire started and smoke is building up in that area. A noticeable layer of smoke can be seen building at the ceiling and spreading to the middle of the barn in top left and right and bottom right cameras. Within 20 seconds, the burning fire plume has extended to the ceiling in the stall of origin. At this point, the fire is very well ventilated and still growing quickly. The ceiling temperatures at the locations closest to the fire have increased to over 500 degrees Celsius within 30 seconds of ignition. Due to the size of the barn, the temperatures further away are lower, but are climbing relatively quickly, and in less than a minute after ignition, all the high-level thermocouples are registering temperatures of 700 degrees Celsius or above. Temperatures are high from floor to ceiling in the stall of origin, and portions of the ceiling panels begin to fall to the floor. While the stall of origin is completely engulfed, visibility remains fairly good in the remainder of the barn. Temperatures recorded on the low thermocouples are beginning to climb in all areas around the stall of origin at this stage. The first flames are seen in the field view of camera 2, which is focused on the wall of the far side of the barn. The burning ceiling layer has now extended across the barn to the northeast side, and the fire is raging throughout the barn. Temperatures at all levels are high for locations close to the fire stall. They are still slightly cooler towards the back of the barn, location D, since the fire is preferentially growing towards the front door, which is the main source of air. In less than 3 minutes after ignition, the cameras register that the interior of the barn, at least those portions within their fields of view, are fully engulfed in flames. Based on the temperatures recorded in the burning regions of the barn and the thick black smoke that developed as the fire grew, the fire did progress to a state of poor ventilation because the main doors remained closed for much of that time.
No, I'm okay. That's not the reason my worries is the cameras, no one's shooting anything over there.
Stay on the grass though.
Due to quantity of combustibles found inside a barn, hay, wood, straw, dust, etc., the fire can be seen raging inside with fire whirls exiting the front door every now and then when driven by the winds outside the burning barn. There is some suggestion of burning hot layer gases in some of the frames as well. While the thermocouples at this point in the test are likely no longer in their original positions, the temperatures seen on the lower bar indicate vigorous burning continues in many parts interior to the barn. Looking inside the front door of the barn, it is evident that just over 6 minutes into the fire, some of the interior members, sections of stalls, etc., that were close to the main door, have fallen and are burning on the floor of the barn. The fire is still intense on the interior of the barn and has traveled further towards the back, with significant flame extension out of the front barn door as well as out of the windows on the leadward side of the structure. Due to the direction and strength of the wind during the burn, the interactions between the wind, the hot smoke plume of the fire, the roof, and the flames extending out the opening can be seen in this section of videos. As more of the fuel is consumed, the fire becomes better ventilated with less black smoke and clearer flaming zones evident near the front barn door. In areas towards the back of the barn, where it is more difficult for air to penetrate, the smoke plume remains thicker due to less ventilated combustion. Notable smoke and fire rolls are evident due to the wind flowing over the top of the roof and interacting with the hot fire plume burning near the front barn door. Depending on the ventilation and mixing, the flames continue to burn more or less cleanly, and the quantity of smoke evident also changes continuously. Flame bursts can sometimes be seen at the barn door as hot gases, which have been limited in oxygen, exit the building, find additional air, mix and burn more vigorously. From time to time, hot smoke is also entrained back into the fire plume, changing the structure and look of the visible flaming regions.
Yep, I see it. Go.
Small localized areas on the roof begin to breach. Flames can be seen along the cracks, but the main portion of the roof structure is still intact. Contents are burning throughout the barn, and flames extend out all openings. The fire burns through larger sections of the roof near the back door of the structure, and about 3 minutes later, 18 minutes after ignition, the roof collapses in the middle back of the barn. The interior of the barn is fully engulfed in flames, and a significant flaming fire plume extends upwards through the hole in the roof. Again, the impact of wind on large fire plumes is well captured in the video traces of the continuing fire. The temperatures seen along the bottom of the frame are temperatures recorded in various flaming zones at different locations throughout the barn. Depending on the fuel and ventilation characteristics, temperatures between 800 and 1100 degrees Celsius are often considered typical temperature right in the flaming regions of a fire.
right up.
I see. Actually see better with the left side. Yep. Right,
Is
not
this
so
our
clear.
extension cord?
Yes. Plug into that then.
What?
Plug into that then.
I don't know. I don't think that's important.
So that way I know for sure.
Yeah, it's been flying like crazy. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna go shoulder mount. Go over here. Yep.
Yes, the center's fine. Yep. Yep.
As the fuel is consumed, the intensity and extent of flaming decreases throughout the barn.